All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. Listen, it's going to be your SITREP. It is 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you from the great state of Texas. And I have no AC in this studio of mine, and so it is heating up like a junkie spoon in here right now. So I'm probably going to keep this short and sweet today. Hopefully by tomorrow or this afternoon, I'll be back in full swing with some AC. But nonetheless, it is going to be a SITREP for 9/7/2022. And without further ado, let's hop over to the board real fast. See what we've got going on. Well, we've got one little general emergency here in the corner. Don't know who that's tied to, but looks to be in the Alabama area, maybe, potentially. But let's see, Mill aircraft up right now. Man, we're dinging at 535 up right now, which is, that's pretty insane when you really think about it. That's a lot. Our normal average is about 250. And so Skyglass is just pulling it all in. You can see we still have, as I get kind of sideways here, you can see these Mill Intel balloons that are up. Now, there is some speculation those bad dudes are also tied to weather modification, but I don't have anything to confirm that. But I do have the ability to confirm they are Mill Intel. So it could be one and the same, who knows. But nonetheless, that's where we are right now. So let's get here. If we start breaking down the components of what is really up, what's driving this higher number, text 2, so we got 47 trainers up. Let me see, T-38's another 15. So we're really low on trainers compared to where we normally are. H-60s, notice we got a whole bunch up here on the eastern seaboard across, but we're sitting around 27 H-60s. Those are your Blackhawks. And then check this out, tankers, and I'm hoping this is accurate. 45 of these dudes across the United States right now. That number's actually increased from where it was when I grabbed the numbers a minute ago. But let's get into our board here. Starting it out over here in the watch list, just give you a little gander. That is going to be a Mill Intel balloon that's popped up over the state of Washington at about 80,000 feet. And then that's going to be a private citizen, actually Steven Spielberg, but we won't say anything. Let's see here. That one there's going to be one of your NOAA birds. Those are actually doing some more weather stuff, and we'll look closer at that here in just a minute. Got a lot of SAM flights up. You can see the blue and white headed out. That's over North Carolina. And then up here, that's not showing the right proper one. It doesn't want to work for me right now. Anyway, that's Air Force One that is up. He's actually headed to Pittsburgh today. We'll look closer at that here in just a minute too. And as we get into, got an E6, that's a Takamo, a couple other birds. And then we've got this one. This is actually Homeland Security out kicking it between Florida and Cuba, which is a little out there for them. And then let's get over here to Europe and just see what's going on. Mainly looks to be a lot of NATO AWACS that are up right now for this one as well. We got a little sub hunter out over the water there. But for the most part, there's your little AWACS. Looks to be coming out of Turkey, which is kind of interesting. They seem to be becoming front and center in all of this at the moment. And then you got a little drone out here off of Portugal and Spain. So, okay, that's going to be that part of it. Now let's get into the heavy lifts. And we'll talk a little bit more about this one. Now, this is kind of interesting because normally a C-130s, A400, they do have the ability to provide air refueling capabilities. So that could be why we have that circle pattern right there. Then you get down over Constanta, Poland, Black Sea. Looks like we've got pretty active now. Notice that the Middle East is starting to get very, very active. That is probably an indication on things to come, okay? So we just kind of put that in as a data point. As you can see, you've got a lot of activity over Europe. And let's get over to the U.S. real fast just to see what's going on. Now, this is kind of an interesting deal here. Notice we got stuff, looks like we're switching some assets from Tampa to Patrick Air Force Base. That's probably feeding the Spec Ops community over there. And then look at this just giant mess over D.C. in that general area. Look at the amount, just the sheer amount of flights that are just in that general between Delaware, D.C., Virginia. Kind of crazy. But anyway, all right, let's get over to the refuelers, get a closer look at this. Notice up here in the Northeast, I wonder who is up there. That would be a pretty good indicator of fighters, folks. And then we get over the general area, that's Pittsburgh. I mean, we know Flashbang's probably got a sea of fighters up over him as well. And then, of course, he's headed back to the White House today. But Here, another one. Check this out. That looks to be over Madison, Wisconsin again. I don't know who's in that area. Probably covering Chicago, and we know who sits in Chicago. That's going to be the Kenyon and Big Mike. So, all right. Now, notice here, too, we've got a lot of stuff happening. Little routes over New Mexico and right there around that border area. Keep in mind, too, the cartel's been acting up a lot lately, so especially down in Tijuana. And then we've got stuff look like air refuelers over Florida. Okay, gives us through the watch list, the heavy lifts and the refuelers. And then let's kind of start breaking into the other area we're watching. Now, this is Brio 68. This is that real high-tech little bird that's really nice, actually. But it looks to be running routes along this Constanta area. This is Constanta down here. Again, spy bird. So they are doing some reconnaissance in that general area. And remember, too, Moldova is in this location. So I'm not going to do that because it'll change all my maps. But nonetheless, Moldova is right in this general area, too. This is Crimea. This is Ukraine, Belarus up above it. Okay, and then Turkey down here, just for point of reference. All right, over to the weather. You can see a lot of volcanic activity going on right now. It is busting it. You got Simaru down here. We've got this, I can't even pronounce it. Not going there. Got this one in Russia, this one in Japan, firing. And then we've got these South America, Central America. Actually, that's actually Mexico right there. All right, but that's going to be your ash alerts. A little heavier than usual, but down from what we've seen in the last couple of sit reps. Okay, let's talk boats for a minute. Ships, as you Navy guys like to call them. But you will see they are starting to stack. These are all the unspecifieds pushed up into this bay. That's because we've got a typhoon that's rolling through in the general area. But notice they've pushed them all in, kind of gotten them out of the general area. Look at this stack up. Now, this is China, by the way, that you're looking at. Beijing is right here. That's going to be your capital, communist capital. But just notice that they are now all kind of pushed in the area. Let's take a closer look as we get into the details of this. But notice yesterday or the day before yesterday, we had a big blank spot because there was a storm pushing through, another typhoon. And it looks like they are trying to get things busy at the moment, racked and stacked outside of Shanghai, as you can see. It just completely staged, ready to go in there. Notice that constant stream going in and out. Remember that Shanghai's one of the most active and up-to-date ports in the world. And so those ships come in and out of there pretty regularly. They turn them, those 3,000 containers, in about 24 hours roughly, unload and reload. And so you can see them all stacked, all the unspecifieds in there. Again, some of that is normal. Most of that is not. The reason I pointed that out is because I've gone back into the Wayback Machine and looked at these just to verify. And so that staging outside of Shanghai that's a normal thing. But these unspecified, they've been there before, but the numbers are a lot higher than what we are typically seeing. So you can see it again, just racked and stacked up there. That is a lot of unspecified. That's a lot of equipment that's not in service, a lot, which is an indicator that China's economy is slowing down and that our supply chain is on the brink. Okay, so again, you can see them into these bays, really, really tucked in there. Probably all of them are moored. We've got you're going to have high seas coming through, and you're going to have high winds coming through. Typically, they like to get the ships out of the ports and out into open water so they're not banging on each other or damaging things. So, again, up here, just kind of all snuffed into that little cove there. But let's take a look at the weather just to show you what is coming inbound right here. As you can see, this is going to be my radar 24, or actually just my radar, not 24. But you can see that is the area we've been watching. Notice the storm is coming in. It's projected right now to be a Cat 3 typhoon, which is going to be pretty heavy duty right off the shore of Taiwan. And again, this is the area where all the ships that you're seeing kind of stacked in there all the way up the coastline there into the East China Sea and into the Yellow Sea, where we see them staging a lot of them to the left of Korea. That's going to be your Yellow Sea. So, okay, let's get away from that. We talked about the ships. Again, let's get into the weather modification. As you can see, we've got one bird that's flying out of, looks like Lakeland, headed up to, I don't know where that's headed, but again, nothing down here in the destination or the ident. These are always just kind of flying on their own, doing their own thing. So, and there's the other one, 68. We've been watching another. Again, these are NOAA birds. All right. Expect to see them out here with the teal C-130s, which are going to be your hurricane hunters. And teal is a call sign, not a color. Just FYI. All right. And then speaking of hurricane hunters, this was the last one. It bumped out here off of Puerto Rico and then came right back. So I don't know. Again, there is a storm out here, but for some reason it's not showing on this this map. None of these are really right now, so I don't know why. But explain the flight a little bit better when you see the edge of that storm there. Okay. All right. Over to the NASA side of the house. Of course, these are also mixed in with the NOAA stuff, right? This is airborne science programs. We've got this one that's out here that's a -8 that's out in the middle. Of course, they are probably running through these storms that are coming off of the coast of Senegal right now. If you get into, again, back over here to my radar, you can see this stuff a little better. This one here, this is where we just saw the one NOAA flight jump in, and then notice how active it is now beginning to get. So this is where you see that -8 right out here doing little hurricane hunter stuff. And this one, as predicted, like I said, going into Spain or Portugal, that is looking like where it's headed into Europe. So, and then this one is going right up the East Coast. So if you're a surfer on the East Coast, surfer in Baja, all the way up here, you're getting ready to get some pretty good surf. It looks very promising, to say the least. Okay, now, while we're in here, let's just look at the TFRs. You can see this looks like we've got flashbang rolling into Columbus. That's going to be September 9th. So that's 2 days from now. He just got back from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're going to take a closer look at that. All right. Let me bump this down. Let's get on over here. Now, here's something I do want to point out. If you've been following James and I, James Cadiz, Pastor James Cadiz, when we're over on his show, we talk a lot about the World Economic Forum. We talk about the deep state. We talk about the global cabal. They are not the same, just so you kind of get that in your head, okay? The deep state, completely different than the global cabal, okay? Global cabal is World Economic Forum, the UN. That ties into the Rothschilds and everybody else. Now, I'm pointing this out because check this out. This, you may remember, Boris Johnson just abruptly decided he was going to bail out. Well, check out the new candidate as she's coming on to the scene. World Economic Forum linked UK PM candidate and her comment, no fully cashless society for now. All right. But important to note, I'm going to show you what this lady, it looks like this over on the World Economic Forum. Her name is Liz Truss. And yep, she is tied to these guys. So coincidence? I think not. Remember, this is the plan they're marching to. And if you get into the details of it, everything on here is in play right now. You can get down to the bottom piece of here with asset bubbles. We're seeing that actually come into play right now. But center involuntary migration, all of these bullet points that they have on here are part of this spider diagram. Every single one of these are now coming into play. That's all part of their plan. Again, the reason I'm pointing this out is because if you remember, we went back 6 months ago, onesie twosie on this. Nothing else on this was actually coming into play just quite yet, okay? But now that whole thing is active. So again, just pay close attention to it. As we watch Italy probably getting ready to replace somebody in there that is tied to the World Economic Forum as well. But every one of these governments, you see them collapse, and then you're seeing these folks kind of bump right into the slot coming out of the WEF from the global, the future leaders, I guess, of the world, or whatever the heck they're calling them, future global leaders. There we go. All right, let's bump over here real fast as we talk a little bit about some of the stuff going on in terms of they're executing the plan. Here we are. We are starving, no kerosene, no food. Sri Lanka fishermen. Yeah, we kind of see that. We've been watching the ports. We know that this is just a slow die-off. Remember, there's 22.4 million people on that island of Sri Lanka, and they are looking like the first test case on the new plan. So we've seen their economy collapse, and then we've watched their all of their assets and their replan dry up. So not a good story, but you're going to see that happening more and more around the world, okay? All right, let's get over here to flashbang schedule. You're going to notice we got, looks like Obama and Big Mike,
as I like to say, Big Mike coming
into the House. And probably not the first time they've been in and out of there, but today it's an official visit. Again, we know this guy right here is really the one that's probably running the show right now, along with Susan Rice. So just pay attention to it. And this is kind of funny. This I do find pretty comical. The fact that Biden is actually being mocked and ridiculed over a modest size of his union audience for Labor Day speech. Check this out. They notice it's a tight crop shot, but he's showing up. It looks just like his campaign trail, folks. Listen. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Crickets. Nobody cares. Nobody's following this guy. I'm telling you, if this isn't the smoking gun to show you what happened and how things shook loose, it looked just like this during the campaign. There you have it. And it continues to look that way. Nobody likes him. And I just don't see him sticking around for a long time. But nonetheless, election offices are fortifying with security fencing, cameras, plexiglass, and more. Starting to see that all over the United States. Again, as my thumbnail says, if you want peace, prepare for war. That is both physically and spiritually, because we are in this is truly a spiritual fight for our lives, but this is going to get physical, folks. There ain't no doubt about it. I mean, you look around the world, and we're going to go into those details right now, but everything is ramping up from social unrest to war. I mean, it's coming. And if you don't have a plan, you're going to fail, no doubt about it. And so you need to really get your house in order right now and start getting prepared, building that strength in your knowledge of the Bible, because, like I said, this is going to be just as much spiritual as it is physical. But also getting your supplies in order, making sure your family has stuff. You don't want to get out and get engaged in this. If they're projecting with all of this fencing and cameras and plexiglass, that would be a pretty good indicator that there's going to be some type of social unrest around these election areas. And so probably intimidation and a lot of other things that they're not supposed to be doing, but they will. But you don't want to get out into this. And as you see things going on, like Sri Lanka here, for example, when you start running out of supplies, people start getting stupid, and you don't want to get into that environment with your family. All right. Okay. So we talked about the mocking. All right, let's get over here to what's going on in the U.S. Notice it's starting to fire up again. A lot of these smaller boxes are going to be fire boxes. We got a lot of stuff going on right now, even out here in the L.A. area with some fires that are happening. But then we've also got these warning boxes that are off our coastline that seem to be, you notice this one's right off of Norfolk, Virginia, off of D.C., off of New York. Looks to be areas where they don't want people messing around. And but yeah, nonetheless, this is what it's looking like in the U.S. We'll get up here to this general area. That right there looks dangerously close to HARP. Not really sure if it is. And notice the stuff that's been happening right on the border as we get kind of through this too, okay? You do have this up here in Greenland. That is actually a drone notification. So it looks like they got some military drone stuff going on up here. More exercises off of Iceland. We get over here. This is Russia, and it looks like they've still got some warning boxes. And then you get over Europe, and it's just one giant red blob. But as you can see, a lot of stuff heating up and going on around here, especially over this. Now, Russia controls the airspace over Ukraine. But remember, too, Belarus is part, even though they're not officially Russia, they are part kind of in lockstep with them. And then, of course, you got Kaliningrad, which is part of Russia. Okay. So we'll continue to watch it all, as always. But this just give you a general idea. As you can see, a lot of exercises going on, even in Russia right now. And then in this general area, again, this is going to go hot eventually. It's just a matter of time. But all right, let's move on over here to the next one. Now, this is one I pointed out probably about 6-8 months ago. I was talking about a drone that flew over my house, and I said it was supersonic. It was about 15,000 foot, maybe tops. It was clicking, and it caught the corner of my eye because I thought it was a bird. But as I kind of focused in on what I was looking at, it was actually this drone right here. And if it wasn't this one, they got one already like it. But I wanted to point it out because this is the U.S. Air Force admitting that they're flying these things, or that they were. It says, Air Force says Boeing is no longer taking part of the Skyborg Advanced Drone Program, but is still expressing interest. This is at MQ-28. And if you want to see what it looks like, there it is. That's exactly what I saw go over my house, headed southbound, supersonic and no sound. Absolutely crazy. The coolest looking thing, like I said, I thought it was a bird because it was flying so fast until I zoomed in kind of with my, focused in on my eyes. But this just gives you a general idea of the stuff that is out there that we're not seeing. Of course, this shows all the test flight stuff. That's why you got that giant nose piece on it, that P-dot tube, and then you've got the orange colors. But again, like I said, man, I've seen it. I saw it 8 months ago, and there's just confirmation. Skyborg, never heard of it. All right, let's get over here to the Ukraine. So we're talking a little bit about some of the stuff happening here. Notice there's a phone call here with Zelensky and the German chancellor, basically saying, hey, thanks for the money, keep sending it. And notice that the Germans and the Americans and the Brits are all the ones kind of pumping assets and money into this scenario. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but slow moving. Notice they're more blue here than there are red today in today's news. That's because Ukraine is actually going on the offensive in some of these areas. This looks to be the major war zone right now, given the mix of blues and reds. And this is, again, this is Crimea, just north of Crimea. Odessa is the port, and then this is the area they've been watching very closely. Constanta is the port down here. Okay, so these are the two port areas. A lot of mines still out here in the open water, and so still very dangerous getting in and out of this particular port. Okay, let's talk a little bit now. We're going to look closer at Syria on the map here in just a second, but Israel just conducted a second attack in a week, damaging the Aleppo airport. It just makes you wonder what is going on up there. What are they landing? Probably got the Iranians bumping into the area. But let's take a look closer at Syria right now. As you can see, very, very active. This is the most active it's been in a while. This is the spot where the U.S. has been engaged. It looks like we are trying to position ourselves or jockey ourselves in for getting oil out of Syria, which that's going to go over like a turd in a punch bowl, folks. Let me tell you, you've got Russia, Iran, and not only Syria, but then you've got Turkey all mixed into this. And it's just a powder keg waiting to happen, right? So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about this. Greece is now bracing for the worst winter since 1942 due to this energy crisis. Now, remember, this we've got Turkey is actually trying to go after Greece. This is Turkey here. This is Greece on this side. If we get back over to this end of it and we back up and look closer at all of the activity going on around Turkey, just notice a lot of military exercises pushing right up here to the Greece area. You may remember just a week ago, Greece actually locked on to some of the Turkish fighters with their missile defense system. And so, Turkey has already said they want to bring back the Ottoman Empire, and that's kind of their push. And so we will probably see a war take place between Greece and Turkey. This is going to be really interesting because Greece has a pretty decent military. They've got F-16s. They're part of the F-16 program on Lockheed. And so, and then, of course, Turkey was part of the F-35. We do know they've got a lot of aircraft out there as well, and a pretty decent-sized military. Both of these would be very small militaries going after each other. But, again, just kind of falls into that wars and rumors of wars segment, right? A lot going on in the world, and everything continues to be ramping up, okay? Now, speaking of that, you may have read the other day that Russia actually shut off the pipeline for gas headed into Europe. German gas giant Uniper says that the worst is still to come after after Russia halts the flow into Europe. Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like China and their halting of the flow of goods coming into the U.S., as we've been showing you. It's just a matter of time before you start to see all that kind of tumble and kick off. So not good, all right? Now, here, we talk about the war footing stuff. Here it is. Putin has pushed Europe into an inflationary depression and currency collapse. Again, go back into the Great Reset. This is exactly what they are planning on doing. And this is kind of propelling or actually making Europe kind of accelerate into this environment, all because of the gas being cut off, right? All right, here's the other piece too. U.S. expands with a new base in oil and gas-rich Syrian province. Again, that's what I was just talking about. We get back over to this part of it in Syria, and we start looking at what the U.S. is doing. Oh, I went in a little too far, but just notice there are gas wells throughout here. Okay, this is Iraq, and this is part of where all this stuff is going on. But just notice that may or may not be the area they're pushing into, but that is very evident what is there. Okay, we already know U.S. is down here in this green zone as well as right here. Okay. Could be why we're seeing the uptick over there in the Middle East as well. Okay. Now, here's one. I just point this one out because we're going through the same thing here in the U.S. The EU is running low on weapons, and it's because they're giving it all to the Ukraine to fight Russia. I like the look at this dude doing a selfie as he through the blast. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Anyway, nonetheless, that'll actually get you killed in the field because they can track that cell thing down to about 3 feet, if not closer than that. So having your cell phone on you in a battle environment is really, really not smart, even off. All right. So, okay. Anyway, so we talk about that piece of it. Let's talk about this other piece. U.S. flies B-52s over the Middle East to show a force aimed at Iran. Hey, there's your F-15s right there. I said the other day it's an aged fleet and that not too many people fly them. It's usually foreign countries. There may be, again, a couple National Guard units that still have these. F-15 was a bad to the bone plane, and they've still tried to modify it. They still try to make it relevant today. But when it starts coming to the next gen fighters, it's just not even comparable. But again, I mean, here you go. Look at this B-52. This bad dude right here. It's older than most of us. Okay, this thing was developed back in the late 1940s and into the 50s, and used heavily in Vietnam and then as well in other conflicts. So this thing is an old airframe also. So, okay. Now, speaking of that, this is Israeli 365 News talking about Philippines offers a U.S. military basis for war against China. They're basically giving us some ports to park our stuff in if we needed to. Keep in mind that the Solomon Islands just went to China because the U.S. basically dropped the ball on that section. And so we've got a lot of posturing still going on around the world. So pay close attention to that. And then here's one. This is going to be your bit defender for today. Just to show you, it's the same as it was the last two times we checked in. Notice the amount that's coming across from Asia and from Europe into the U.S., centrally into the U.S. right here. We're getting peppered left, right, and center, and I'd say we're probably getting the brunt of it right now, but very, very active and from a cyber perspective. All right, let's get over to talk about troop movement, see what we've got going on, because remember, the number in Europe from a NATO perspective was that we were going to go from 100,000 to 300,000 troops. Of course, the U.S. is going to be the lion's share of that. But this is going to be Biggs Army Airfield coming out of El Paso. You can see we do have one camber flight inbound from Baltimore, Washington. This is going to be your arrivals board. It's going to be your departures board. Get over to departures. We do have one camber flight. We'll look closer at that here in a minute. Notice the SPA coming back in. That's Sierra Pacific coming in from Moody Air Force Base. That's Valdosta, Georgia. And then it looks to be headed back to Tucson. That's a home base operation. So it's probably deadhead and empty coming out of that location headed back to Tucson. But looks like we got some troops coming in from Moody that'll probably end up getting on a big bird and flying out as they get out processed out of Biggs Army Airfield over either into Europe or into Asia, one or the other. All right. This is going to be Ramstein, Germany. As you can see, got inbound camber flight from Dover and Atlas Air coming inbound from Baltimore, Washington. And then a Reach aircraft is going to probably be one of your C-17s. And then outbound, 2 camber flights. Not really sure on this one. That's not Alexandria, Louisiana, to my knowledge. We'll look closer, but I don't think so. Anyway, looks to be rolling out of there. Let's get down a little lower here. Scheduled departures another MD-11. So that was probably a FedEx bird originally. Now they're bringing troops back on it. Notice the 3 FedEx birds en route coming from Dover Air Force Base, probably bringing in a boatload of supplies. Again, we'll continue to watch that, but interesting. That's a pretty big surge right there. Okay. All right, now we get over to those camber flights. Let's just take a look. We've got one rolling out of Biggs Army Airfield, headed across the drink. Then we've got this one here, looks like leaving Ramstein, and then another one coming out of Cairo, Egypt, headed over, looks to be headed kind of in the Doha direction down here in the Middle East. There is that one. And then let's get over to the Ruskies, who have been exceptionally busy. We've had 2 drop off. We had a bunch of flights coming out of Moscow. All of them seem to be headed up here to this general direction, coming all the way from out here in Asia. All of them, look at them. They seem to be all getting together. My prediction, based on this traffic, that's 6 flights all headed to the same spot. My prediction is that there's something big getting ready to go down, and that's this is going to be kind of like pulling in their Congress or all their key players for the discussion. So again, these are staff aircraft for the most part, right? It's going to be kind of like our blue and whites. Look to all be headed in. Now, the one I don't see yet on the board is Putin's aircraft. Doesn't mean he isn't already there, but they all seem to be headed to that same spot. Let me see if I can pull this up and get a. No, it's not giving me the location. We'll watch to see where they end up landing. But anyway, that's a big data point. Again, it could be an indicator. Anytime you see everybody kind of getting together, it could be an indicator that something big is about to take shape. Okay, so we'll continue to watch that and monitor it. All right, going to be your Omni Errors. Notice we got one rolling out of Fort Hood, headed to Seattle, Tacoma. Those folks are headed across the drink. Got one from Shannon, Ireland, coming back inbound. That's probably empty because I seriously doubt we're rotating at this point. I think we're trying to get the numbers up. And so could be a rotation, but then, of course, notice we got one headed to Hawaii and one headed up to Anchorage, Alaska. Looks like most of our flights, at least on the board right now, are headed over to Asia across the drink. Okay, now let's get over here to this side of it. This is going to be all of your British aircraft. Most of them are over the UK right now, probably returning back. And then this one coming out of Cyprus looks to be headed southbound. No telling. That could be headed anywhere. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then this is going to be your immigrant machine. Again, if you live on the border or you're down here in South America and you see these planes arrive, please take photos and send them to me so I know. We're trying to determine, because the CBP is not responding to me, of course. And I have a feeling that they're bringing folks into our country, not just taking them out. But we need confirmation on it. And the only way to do it is crowdsourcing, because I'm not down here on the border. But if you look at these flights, the Swift Air flights rolling in, or the Omni Errors, you can see them. They stand out like a sore thumb because there's not a lot of them. But you want to get, I don't need a picture of them sitting on the runway. I need them when that jetway door opens up and see, are they offloading people? If they're offloading people on our end of it, then that means they're bringing folks into our country. Okay. So again, that'll be just a big data point as a giant mosquito just flew in front of me. Sorry about that. Old habit, want to reach up there and grab it. But okay, let me back up just a tad as we get into this. Actually, no, I think that's it. I've covered everything on my screen, and my mouse decided it wanted to stop working. So we're going to ignore that at the moment. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it for now. Again, keep that powder dry and stay frosty. Things are definitely on the move around the world. Again, I see all the indications that we're headed towards war and not towards peace. So that's it, folks. You guys be safe out there. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.